back. Sorry, I was just double checking my live streaming software had a little hiccup there and didn't quite start the live stream as I thought it was going to do it. But welcome everyone to Jira Admin for Beginners. Today we're going to be talking about field configurations. Now, a couple of disclaimers before we get started. If you see me looking that way, we're under high winds, and if I lose power, which I don't expect, but just in case, y'all know what happened. We are gonna just jump into the material and get started with our usual spiel. While I'm bringing this up, though, why don't you tell me, where are you tuning in from? Where in the world are you logging in from? Where are you logging in from? And also, are you currently having, or have you ever made a field configuration mistake? I'm very curious. Have you ever made a mistake with field configurations to the tune of, did you ever like break Jira by making a field required and like nobody could use Jira? I'm very curious. Say yes or no in the chat if that has ever happened to you. I'm super curious because that's how I learned. When I was starting off, that was the biggest field configuration mistake you can make, is literally make a field required that is required for everybody. And if it's not on the screen, if that field is not in everybody's screen, you're not going to have a very good day as a Jira admin. So I'm going to show you how to avoid that mistake. And if you work for me, a little running joke that I have here on the Jira Life is that if you make a field required and you break it for everybody, that, my friends, in my opinion, is a fireable offense. But it might be a little extreme. Anyways, what you're going to be learning today. So we're going to focus on just these two topics. Now, if you remember from last month, I tried to do field configurations and talk about this, but custom fields and field configurations, but custom fields took the entire time. We did not get a chance to talk about field configurations at all. So today we're going to be covering just that. So, but before we get started, a little bit about me. My name is Alex. I do have a bachelor's in computer engineering, a master's in systems engineering, a couple of cybersecurity certifications. Next week, just like 3 or 4 days from now, I'm going to be taking the ACP 120. Fingers crossed I pass. That's the Jira Administrator one, the one that qualifies me to teach this class, if you will. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I pass that one. I also do have the ACP 520, and I'm on the fence if I'm going to do the 420 and the 620. I'm not too thrilled about those two, but anyways, those are the two certifications that are on the horizon for me. Also, if you can take a second here as you're all tuning in here and you're all, yep, no, no, I got my time zones correct. Everything's supposed to be at 8 a.m. Pacific time. The other ones were all just messed up. But anyways, if you can take the time here to subscribe to this channel, that would really help us grow the channel. As many of you aren't subscribed, which I don't know why. I don't quite understand why people don't subscribe to their YouTube channels, but subscribe to this channel and then also scan that QR link. I have one-on-one help. So if you have problems with Jira, I can help you out. Also, I have free courses, paid courses. I have a book. I have so many things that are available for you. So with that said, let's just jump into Jira. We'll come back to this slide at the end, and we're going to go talk field configurations. Now, let me start off by setting the stage. What is a field configuration, right? Well, very easily put, right? It's what determines the statuses of fields. It determines which fields are visible beyond the screens. We'll talk about the overlap between screens and field configurations in a second, but it helps to determine how the fields show up on your screen, why the fields show up on your screens, and when, and it literally takes care of the who, what, when, where, why of the fields. And this is different. Field configurations are different than the screens because the screens sit on top of the field configuration. The field configuration is the root. It's the base for all the fields. The screens just allow you to interact with those approved fields a little bit differently. Now, the first thing we're going to cover is making a field required. This is the most common use case that we have when we have to interact with fields. At any time that we're trying to do a field required, it should be, I mean, there's two ways to do the field required, but the proper way, right? Especially if you want the little red asterisk right here, if you want to make the little red asterisk, you have to do it through the field configuration. And I'm going to show you the proper way of doing it, right? So I'm going to take this project. I'm going to go into my marketing Jira training project. Now, I'm not going to do this one because this is a team managed project, and nothing that I'm about to tell you or teach you applies to team managed projects. So we need to go over to a non-team managed project. So we're going to start off with this company managed one here. And the first objective is I want the description to be a required field. Now, the easiest way to do that, right? The easiest way, the way Google tells us to do it, is to go to your project settings, go over here to the left, go to fields. And once you're inside of fields, you're just going to click on that little pencil right here. And you're going to type in description. Okay. And if you do this, if you click this required button right here, you will enter a world of headaches. Because when you do this, one of the things that a lot of people there's an oversight that people just forget is that this field configuration is going to impact 12 projects. Now, this is a small brand new Jira. Your Jira probably has 100, 200, 300 projects. So this problem scales exponentially worse. And a lot of people just don't realize that part, right? They don't realize that, hey, I'm just making it for this particular, because I was in the project. I went to the project settings. I went to the fields for that project. But somehow you miss the fact that you're no longer in that project. You're now in the global setting of this project. And when I hit this required button, I'm not making this field required for just this one project. I'm making it required for every project. And that, my friends, is a very, very bad thing to do, especially when whatever field I'm doing it on doesn't exist in every screen for every project, at least the ones that are applied. Now, description, I might be able to get away with it because there's like a high probability that everybody has a description. But if you were to do like a custom field, it ain't going to be good news for you that day. So what's the proper way of doing this? How do we make fields required without botching the whole thing up? Well, let me show you. It starts off, I'm already there, but I'm going to do it again just for the recording, right? But you want to be a Jira admin, and you'll go to the gear up in the top right corner, you go to issues, and once you're in issues, you're going to find your way down to field configuration. So you want to come down here, click on that, and when you click on this field configuration, you want to create a new field configuration. Now, there's two ways to go about this. You can make a brand new field configuration, right? This is going to be completely pure, or you can make a copy of the default one. Now, I would recommend that if you have not contaminated the default one, I would recommend you use the default one. And what I mean by contaminated means if you haven't made like due date required or some other field required, if you just leave the default, which is like summary and reporter, you should be fine. But the moment that you start contaminating your default field configuration and making other ones required, I don't recommend you go down this route. But for the most part, you shouldn't contaminate your default field configuration, because every single project, whenever you create a project, it will always default to the default field configuration. And so you don't want to touch that one. You want to leave that one alone. You don't ever want to mess with that one. So I just use it as my basis to make the copy. Now, Rakana says, what would be another way to make a field required without making a new field config? It seems excessive to just make, so there are two ways, right? So this is the appropriate way if you want the little red asterisk. If you don't care about the red asterisk, you can do it in the workflow. Now, you might need to go back a couple of months, but I do have a video in this. Well, actually, it's not here. It's beyond the Jira life. So let me show you then real quickly. We'll take a little sidebar for Rakana here. So the proper way of doing it is I'm going to go into a project that is not a team managed project. And so you go into the workflow of whatever project, wherever you want to make that field required. You're going to click on edit workflow. And once there, you're going to want to click on this line, the create line. And there is a validator on the right-hand side. So you're going to click on that. And from here, you're going to add a validator. And there is a field required validator. So you click on that, then you pick your field and you publish your workflow, and then that's it. The only drawback is that you do not get the little red asterisk. So if that's critical for you, then the only way to do this is to do the field configuration, which is what I'm doing right now. So hopefully, Rakana, that answers your question there. All right. So now that we've kind of talked about, okay, so don't mess with this one. I'm going to make a copy. All right. So I like to make a copy because it always just already has the summary and it already has the report done for me. I like to change this, and then the front, I'm gonna put the name of the project, right? So I believe I was doing this for AI PM project, and so just give it a unique name, something that reminds you of what this is for. The last thing you want to do is like have default configuration 2, default configuration 3. Like you want to give this some good names. As far as the description goes, nobody nobody ever reads those, nobody sees those but the Jira admin. So feel free to update it if you want. I never do. Probably not a good practice, but none of the end users usually see it. So now that we have this new field configuration, right? Now I can go in there. Now I can go into this particular field configuration, and now I can go. Let's just go back to my project over here. See if I have any custom fields. I don't think I do. So let's just make priority required. Okay. So I'm gonna go to priority. I'm gonna search for it, and I'm gonna click on required. Now take a pause right here. Everybody stop. If you're multitasking, this is the one of the biggest gotchas that happen. So I want you to pay attention right here. When you do what I just did, right? I made a copy of an existing field configuration, give it a new name, and then I went and searched for that field. When I clicked on required over here on the right-hand side, it made the field required. This is good. This is what we want. But this is where you get scared. This is where Jira, I wish they did a better job here, right? Because these screens make you want to believe that this priority is now required on all of these screens. And let me tell you, that is not correct. That is a very, very bad assumption. And this is one of the first things that I had to overcome when I was a new Jira admin, is that Atlassian does not help us. Atlassian here, this shouldn't be visible because this me making this priority field required has not done anything. There's nowhere in my Jira right now is this priority field required. And I can prove it to you, right? I can prove it to you because I can click the create button and you'll notice that priority is not required. I can change projects. I can go to another company managed project and that priority field is not a required field. And so don't let this freak you out. Don't let this intimidate you because it freaked me out the very first time, right? It made me like really, really scared the very first time. And it's not very, very good, right? But just keep in mind that this whole thing right here is fake. Don't worry about it. Now, there's some more steps though, but let's take a look at the comments here because Michelle and Sonia have a couple of comments. So if you have a default text instructions in a field, does that count for required entry or is it new content entered? If you have a default text, okay, in a field, does that count for required entry or does it? Yeah, so if you make a field required and then you go and set the inside of the custom field a default value in that custom field, it will pass because it has a value in there. And in Jira's eyes, it has been filled and it's the required part. It's good. So probably not the effect that you want, right? Because then the user will not have to put anything in there. They're just going to leave the default, or they can leave the default, and it's probably not the effect that you want. So that's how that works. Sonia says, I made the mistake of removing screens from a new field config because I did not want it on all the screens. And yeah, so again, don't freak out over this. This will freak everybody out, but don't freak out. And then Ghost Riser says, so much work for no reason. Yeah, I don't know why Atlassian does it this way. It's not the best way to do it. I feel like there could be some optimizations in making fields required. There's got to be an easier way, but unfortunately, this is how we do it today. Obviously, if you're in a team managed project, it's much different. I'll show you how that works in a minute, but you don't need field configurations for team managed projects. So not really in scope of this class. Now, what do we do here? So we have this priority set, right? This is good. We have now made a field required. How do we then put it into our project, right? I want to make it required here, but it's not showing up yet. Well, there's 2 steps to this, right? Like everything else, there's always 2 steps. So once I have the field configuration, I need to update my field configuration scheme. So I need to go over here into the field configuration scheme and find the one for my project. Now, as you can see here, there isn't any. And that's because every project, if I go back into my project, every project shares the same default configuration scheme. Every single software project shares it. And this is good and it's bad. It's a system default field configuration. You can't see it as I just showed you, and you can't make copies of it. So the only workaround is to make a brand new field configuration scheme. And so that's exactly what we're going to do next. So I'm going to go back to my gear, and I'm going to go back down to field configuration schemes, and I'm going to create a brand new one. Now, in this particular case, because we don't have access to that system field one, in this particular case, I'm going to do AIPM project field configuration. And I like to word the add scheme. I always like to make sure that I differentiate between the non-scheme and the scheme. And if you've seen any of my other videos where we did the same thing with workflows, I always, if it should have a scheme, or if it should be a scheme, I like to make sure that the word scheme is in there. It's really, really important. Nitin says, it means we have to ignore the screens all the time while making any field required. It means you need to ignore that section. That's I don't know why that section's there. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't do anything. So just ignore it. Okay. All right. So now that I have a brand new field configuration scheme, you'll notice that the default field configuration is the default one. And we don't want that, because if I go and swap, if I go back to the project and swap my schemes, which is what we're going to do next, we basically didn't do anything. So what we want to do here is we want to hit the edit button. But before we do, I want to pause here because there's two paths to take here. And again, if you're multitasking, I want you to understand or pay attention here. So give me another minute of your attention. You can see this text here. It says default, used for all unmapped issue types. And what this means is when you go to a project, I'm going to open up a new tab here for you all. When I go into a project and I go look at the project settings and I go look at the fields, you're going to notice that for all the issue types, they all share the same field configuration. Now, this could be a really good thing or it could be a really bad thing, and it's all up to you to determine the use case that your user is giving you, right? So for example, if your users say, hey, I need the priority field required on all my issue types, then all you need to do is click on edit and swap out the field configuration with the new one we made. Click update. That's all you got to do. But if they say, I only want the bug to have a priority required, so I want all the rest to be left alone, well, then instead of hitting the edit, because this is going to change it for everything, what you want to do is you want to associate an issue type to a field configuration. So it's really, really key. So when somebody's asking you, hey, I want a field required, you got to listen or ask, if they don't give it to you, for what issue types, for all of them, for some of them, right? And so they can be as granular as they want to be there. But in this particular case, we're just going to do it for like the bug. I'm going to select bug, and then I'm going to pick my new field configuration that I have, and I'm going to click on add. And now what you're going to see is I have a scheme with two field configurations, a bug one that has the priority set to required, and then a default one that doesn't have anything. So hopefully that makes sense. If it didn't, please, this chat is available for you to ask questions. So feel free to ask any questions if you didn't 100% understand what I just said. I will pause here for questions, and I'm going to ask this one. How frequently do you make a new field configuration? I've been creating new issue types and a new configuration per issue type to reduce load times. I don't think it helps. I think it really just it depends on your requirements for whomever's asking for a brand new project. I would say 80% of the time, I always just leave the default. It's in that small 20% when you have somebody that wants very specific fields to be required. Then I go ahead and just break it out for each issue type. Because if they're picky, right? If they're telling me I want the bug to have priority, I want the story to have story points, I want the epic to have like accepted criteria or something, then you're going to get very granular, right? And so it's better for you in the future to like kind of future-proof yourself and make a brand new field configuration per issue type. But that is a very unique user that should have very specific business needs to do that. For everybody else, just leaving the defaults is usually good enough. So, and then most of the time they literally just ask for one or two issue types. So I don't see the point in doing it for all the issue types for a project, I would just do it for whatever they're asking, but also because I'm lazy. All right, Vijay says, how do I make a field mandatory depending on another field dynamically? You do not. That is not a feature you can do in Jira. That's just not something that we can do. In Jira Service Management, whole different story with forms, but inside of Jira, that is not a functionality that is supported in Jira. Blinda's is new. Hi. And Tawana says, hi everyone, just joined. Hello, welcome. All right, Shankar says, can I use custom fields or issue types in forms? That's an interesting question. The form is directly tied to the issue type, and the issue type sit inside the custom fields sit inside the issue type. So the form and the issue type are one, and then you can do all of the custom fields that you want for that particular issue type. So that's how that works. Can I do it via automation? Can you? Not really, because when you're creating an issue, right? When you create something and you wanted to make a field required based on a previous field, like if I set this component to this, I then want to make priority required. That's impossible for the automation because no action has happened at this point. The issue has not been updated. The issue has not been created. So there is no trigger for you in the automation rule to understand that the component has a new value. Again, you might be able to do this in a JSM project using forms, but for sure, not going to be possible in Jira software, not even via automation, because until you hit the create button, Jira and the automation rules don't know that something has happened. So there's nothing for the trigger to latch onto. Thank you. I'm too lazy too, and I stopped having a lot of field configurations because it was a headache. Yeah, so again, just do what you need to do. Do as many as needed. Cool, Belinda. I wish I had somebody to kick you out, but feel free to start commenting because it always only helps the algorithm. Can we do it using script runner behavior? So Nitin, sorry about that. Maybe I don't have a whole lot of script runner experience, but it's something that I'm going to be mastering very, very soon. So maybe come back before the end of the year. I will let you know. But as of right now, I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, so carrying on. At this point, all we've done, just to recap, is I have a field that is now required priority, and it's only required on the bug. But if I go and hit the create button, you'll notice that priority is not required. Yay, but that's because I'm in a story, so yay. But if I switch to bug, you'll notice that the priority isn't set either, or it's not a required field either. Anybody want to take a guess why that may be? Can anybody kind of think about why this could have happened? Are these retroactive existing items, or sorry, are these retroactive to existing items, or does it just affect new items created since the? So if an item is already created, then the required part is already a moot point because the issue has been filled out and somebody created the issue, right? So this is only going forward, right? This is whenever somebody hits the create button from this moment forward, these fields will be required because in the past they've already been created. So this required part only works in that in this part of the whole system here. Shankar says I have 4 forms, and when I click the create option in the top middle, I am getting all forms, issue types, details. I need to get each. In the top middle, I am getting all form issue types details. I need to get form details if is this possible. If you have a form, you shouldn't probably be using the create button. You should be using the link to the issue type. Sorry, the link to the form directly. So I'm not sure that answers your question, Shankar, but that's the best answer I can give you. Because I'm on the create screen. Yes. All right. We got a spammer here with Binda's comedy. So again, thanks for all those very unnecessary comments. Not helpful, but helps the algorithm. So keep commenting. Screen configuration depends on which screen you are create. Yes, it does. That is a very true story there. I think I'm losing the conversation though. So screen doesn't refresh when you change the issue type. I'm not sure what that question is. Can VJ and Deborah, if you guys can add me a little bit more context? I think I might be missing the question, so I need a little bit more context so that I can try to answer that question. All right, Michelle says, if the existing ones don't have data in the field, why, when they edit or close the issue, they will have to completely, no. So again, the required field is only happens literally at inception upon create. So if they edit the issue later, it doesn't matter. Jira won't complain later on. This is only strictly for when you hit the create button. At any point later on, there's a different way. So if you want to make a field required later on, you have to do it upon a transition. So like when you go to in progress or when you go to done, then you can make a field required then, like it has to be filled out. But this is specifically literally only to get the little red asterisks when you hit the create button. And I mean, I can even show you inside of a Jira project, there is no red asterisk. So when I open up like summary, right? Summary always has the little red asterisk, and reporter always has the little red asterisk. I can show you, I can prove it to you. Summary and reporter are always required. Always, always, always. Where the heck is my reporter? Uh-oh, I don't have a reporter here. That's not good. Where's my reporter? Oh boy. Show my fields. Nope, I have all the fields. Why is my reporter not a thing? Well, trust me when I tell you the reporter and the summary is always required. Always, always, always. And you can see here that there's no required field anymore, right? And so it won't have the same effect. Okay. Let's see. Where are we from? We're from everywhere. Where are you from? Let's see. You asked why is my field not shown as mandatory? Oh, you were answering my question. Yes. Okay. So yes, Vijay. So the reason that this is right, why the thing is not set, is because we haven't applied it to the project. I'm gonna do that next. Right. Sorry. Woo. I totally got lost. There's a this person is really throwing me off here. So we'll see if we can just ignore that person. Right. So yeah. So none of the fields are required because Jira doesn't know that it needs to be required yet. So the next step is to go into your project. Right. We're gonna go into the project settings. And then we're going to click on fields. And once we're here, we're going to go to actions and we're going to select use a different field. This is very, very important. So when I do that, now I'm going to be able to pick the new scheme that I just made. And this new scheme is going to have those two, the one for the default and the one for the bug. And so when I do this magical button here, you can see that that distribution is now appropriate. And now when I hit the create button for a story, priority not set, so this is good. When I go to a bug, I should see priority with the little red asterisk. Now, this is really, really cool. Now, one little thing that you got to be aware of, one thing that you got to pay special attention to, okay? A test. This is a very, very important test. When you do this, you want to test this out. You want to go to another project, go to a different project, and double check that the bug doesn't also have the priority set. So if you can double check that, then you're going to be able to be rest assured that that you're not going to have a problem. Okay, you're gonna be just fine here. And this is where you can breathe a little bit and go, phew, I fixed it. I didn't make a mistake, right? Because the moment that another bug in another project that didn't get impacted by the scheme change, the moment that those fields are not required over there, that is really, really, really good news. And that's again, we're very, very happy when that happens. And so I can successfully confirm that I was able to make a bug required without breaking Jira. This is the proper way of doing it, right? So any other project, I can go to a different one. And again, oops, not this one's not a, I need to pick software company managed projects. I can go to another one with another bug, go down priority, and you see that it's not there. But if I go back to my original project, I think it was this test marketing one. Nope, not that one. Man, I have so many. I got to name these better. Not that one either. Oh boy, AI. This was the AI one, right? And I go back to my bug, you're going to see that my priority is indeed required. So again, now I can successfully get, yay, we did it. We didn't break Jira. That's awesome. Okay, so more questions. So in forms, we don't have a help desk or hint type. I said create option. So yes, so you did say create, but you're also talking about a form, and there's the create button doesn't have form. So they're two separate things, Shankar. You cannot, when I hit the create button here, I don't see the forms. There is no forms. No forms are available. The forms are a completely different thing. So this is just this create screen. So we're not talking forms at this point. You can't overload the word form. So this is a screen, specifically the create screen. Some versions of Jira also have a form, and there's a form over there. So again, you got to use the right words when you're talking to me, because I can only assume what I know of Jira. All right, Deborah says, I was answering the question too. Okay, so you were also answering. Sorry, I totally missed that. I'm so sorry about that. Michelle says, I'm a Jira Jedi. Thank you. That's a compliment. RG Short says, thank you for the great session. Thanks so much. Abjitsi says, reporter field is not editable or supplyable in Jira C? What's JC? All right. Go says, can you block him as a user? I can, but I'm doing the live stream, and it looks like he or she has calmed down. I usually have a moderator because I don't have my YouTube video up, and I usually depend on somebody else to block people. But let me see if there's a way I can put the user on a timeout, and I can ban them. Oh, let's put them on a timeout. There we go. Cool. Thank you, Ghost of Raz Guriz. I now learned a new thing. Oh, Jira Cloud. Okay, let's go back then. So what's the question? Reporter field is not editable or yeah. So Jira Cloud, the reporter is non-negotiable. You have to have that reporter. Yep. Thank you. You guys. Yeah, you should be on this side of the seat and understand how much pressure it is when you're trying to teach and not lose your train of thought. So how do we select an epic link when the screen configures epic as hide when empty? So epic link is no longer a thing. GKK. So we now have parent, and so that hide when empty is a issue layout thing and not on this create. So again, different topic, different whole different thing. So not going to be impacted by this. All right. So now that I showed you how to make a field required the right way, that is the most common use case. I want to give you a couple of more use cases, a couple of more things, okay? And so what else do we do in a field configuration? So let me show you. In the field configurations, I'm going to go back in here. There's a couple more reasons why we would mess with our field configuration. So making a field required, the most common use case. But we have another thing. We have something called a render. And so anytime that you have a text box, whenever you create a brand new text box, that field is going to be just an ugly text box. And so let me show you an example. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to create a custom field, and I'm going to create a brand new custom field of the type paragraph. Now, this is only applicable to the paragraph issued custom field. Okay, and I'm going to call this one like AI prompt. All right, just so that I stick with my theme of what I was doing with there. And I'm going to skip all the way to the bottom because I'm horrible with names and I just don't remember. I'm going to go back into my project AI. I'm going to go to my screens because now I know where I want it. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to come into this particular screen. And I'm going to add that AI prompt field that I just created. Okay. So what, I'm not teaching any bad habits, Rodney. It's all good stuff here. Okay. So now that I've added this field, I'm going to move it up just so that it's easier to read or look at. When I hit the create button here, you're going to notice that my AI prompt is just an ugly box, right? It's just a text box. I can put whatever I want in there. But if I want to put things like a header, make things bold or italicized, or change the color, or put a bulleted list or a numbered list, or a link, or add an attachment, or at somebody, or add emojis, or a table, or a code snippet, or an info panel, or mother elements, or even use Atlassian Intelligence, none of that is possible in just a regular vanilla text box. So what we need to do is we need to go into our custom fields. Sorry, we need to go back to our field configuration. And this is where you're going to have to make a call. This is where, do you do it for everybody or do you do it just for some people? And if only some people want that dynamic, rich text box, then you have to make a new field configuration. But if you don't care, right, if everybody benefits from it, then you can simply go into the default field configuration, find your field, AI prompt, which is the first one on my thing, and you're going to click on this renders button. When you click on that renders button, you're going to be able to change the render from default, which is that ugly text box, to a wiki style render. And when you do that and you click update, this is where good magical things will happen. All right, so I'm going to click on update one more time. And now, just like that, when I click my create button and I scroll down, my AI prompt is no longer just this ugly text box, but rather it's this bigger box with nice. Now I can, I can format it a little bit, right? I can put bullets and go like thing 1, thing 2. I can make text bold. I can, again, this is not intended to be. Oh boy, it's not intended to be a class on fields, but now I can do whatever I want, and it's a rich text box. I can drop in attachments and whatnot. So powerful stuff there. But that's use case number 2 as to why would you even want to mess with the field configurations, right? Why touch the field configurations? Well, whenever you want to change it, again, this is only works for that paragraph custom field. This is the only way to do it. You have to go and change that that render. Okay, so very, very powerful stuff there, and we're going to discard the issue. Now there's one last thing. And we're might finish this training up quite a bit early because I'm not quite ready to move on to another topic. But there's one other thing that I want you to be aware of. Okay, so you may have noticed that there's a hide button here. Okay, there's a hide button right here. And you're probably wondering, like, well, what does that mean? And that confused me for the last 6-7 years. And in fact, as I was studying for the ACP 120, I made the realization of understanding what that is for. So let me explain what the hide button is. But to do that, I got to give you a little bit of a backstory. I got to give you a little bit of how fundamentally this works, okay? So the field configurations and the screens, they feel similar. They control the behavior or lack of a field to the user. And so when I click this create button, right, and I look at these fields here, I control which fields are visible or not visible, in other words, hidden, by manipulating if a field is on a screen or not. Okay? And so if I wanted to get rid of AI prompt, all I need to do is go into my project, go to the project settings, and then I can go to screens. And when I'm there, I can just expand that screen. And all I need to do is find that field and just hit remove. And if I do that, then this field is gone. So I effectively have hidden it, right? It's gone, it's hidden. But check this out. If I go and add my AI prompt, I'm going to put it back in. I'm going to put it back again, back to the top, just so you guys can see. And if I hit the create button, here it is. I guess it didn't move, right? But if I type in something amazing, right? And I'm going to type in a story, right? This is a story, right? So when I hit the create button here, I now have an issue with that information, right? I have something here that says AI prompt, and I need you all to visually confirm. There is text that says something is amazing here, right? Something amazing. And what I'm allowed to do with that text, once it's there, is I can go to the search button at the top. I can go to view all issues. And I can go, hey, Jira, show me where AI prompt is not empty, right? And so this is going to do a search, and it's going to find every issue in all of my Jiras where this particular field is not empty. Something amazing, okay? Now, we're going to try something interesting. I'm going to remove this field from the screen, all right? And so I'm going to go back into my project, go to project settings, go to screens again, go to expand this thing again. Wow, there's so many clicks, man. So many clicks. And I'm just going to get rid of my AI prompt. And so now when I go back into my project and I look, I'm going to just go to issues because it'll show me that issue, right? That something amazing is gone, right? You see how you don't see it. But I'm curious, what happens, and I'm genuinely curious because I haven't tried this. What happens when I put in the same search? AI is not empty. Will it return the same single issue? And the answer is yes, right? So even though I physically can't see it, this field very much still exists for this particular issue. It's just under the cover, so you can't see it. It's not on the screen, but it still exists. The entity, the field for this particular field configuration still exists. But I have the power to go back into my field configurations and into my, I'm going to click on the gear, go to my field configuration here, and I can now hide it. And when I do that, watch what happens, okay? I'm going to go do the same search. Actually, I'm going to redo all the steps. I'm going to go to AI, and the first thing that you're going to notice is that if I try to add it to the screens, in the chat, let's pause here, in the chat, should I be able to add AI prompt? Will it show up? Somebody answer that question. Will I be able to, oh, well, there it is. Can I add it? So the answer is yes, I can add it. But if I go back into my project, can I see it? It's in the field, right? It's in the screen. It's a screen, it's in the field. If I go back into my issue, can I see it? And the answer is no, right? So I was able to add it back into the screen because the field still exists globally. But you'll notice that even though the screen clearly has that field on the screen, the field configuration overrules it and hides it. And this is powerful, right? Because then the other thing is this: when I try to search it, right, is not empty, I'm expecting nothing to come back, but it did come back, which is weird. I was not expecting that. I'm not gonna lie. I would have expected it to not come back with anything. But at least we tested it out publicly. But at least now you know that if you hide a field, and even though it's on your screen, that field configuration is going to supersede. It's going to overrule the screen, and it's gonna, even though you physically have that field on there, it's going to overgo. Nope, we're gonna hide it, right? We're gonna hide it completely. Julia had a question here, and I think Ronnie answered it. Is it possible to create a generic custom field of, say, yes, no, radio buttons, and use it for different questions in different projects? So let's see what Ronnie's answer is. Ronnie says, generalizing fields so they can be reused is ideal, which fields has the field name. So yes, so you could, but I wouldn't recommend it yet. So I'll go with that too. So the question here is, so hide only means it can't be shown on the screen. No, so yeah, so hidden means, I thought, now this is kind of weird because I truly was expecting that AI prompt wouldn't even pop up. I thought as I'm studying for the ACP 120 that this is not, that even here it's not supposed to show it to you, but for some reason it is. So I'm gonna have to double check. I mean, I'm gonna start studying like Friday night for this test on Saturday morning, so I'll restudy this part. But I could have sworn, Ronnie, when we're looking at this, I'm not even supposed to be able to see it. It might just be because I didn't hide it in all the field configurations. But let's try that. Let's remove it from both field configurations and see if it matters. We're just gonna hide it in both. This would be annoying. If this is the case, this would be a very, very annoying thing. I'm gonna refresh my screen and hit the same search. Yep, so it still returns it. So this is where I could have sworn that I read in that lessons documentation that if you hide the field, it's gone. But yeah, so Tawana, what I did is I removed it for the bug as well, or I hid it from the bug one as well, and it's still there. So not sure. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do project equals my AI project, and AI. Yeah, see, it still pops up. I could have sworn it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to return anything. But anyways, I'll take a look at that a little bit later. All right, so with that said, that's kind of it. Let me answer some questions here. So we use fields that are not in the screen for internal use. Automation rules or bulk change will be able to update those fields. Yes. So don't hide them. Don't hide them from your field configuration. But if you don't intentionally put that field in your view, right? So you still want it in the edit. You still want to be editable, because if your field is not in the edit screen, then automation rules is not going to be able to do anything with it. It won't be able to edit. So you need to make sure it's an editable field at least, but it doesn't have to be in the view screen and it doesn't have to be in the create screen, but you will need to put it in the edit screen. Is there any method to bulk associate custom fields to several new screens in the view field configuration? Yes. So when you go to create a custom field, so unfortunately you can only do this upon inception, right? So when you go to create a custom field, and now I gotta go make a fake one. So when you go make a new one, right? AI checklist, and then we got like thing 1, thing 2. Here and only at this moment, so you want to do this right now, is you check the check boxes for whatever you want, because once you miss this opportunity, then you have to go into each field manually and kind of do it. I mean, you will still see the screen to do it to a lot of them, but you do need to go one by one custom field at a time and do it at a time. But you can't. There is no way for me to select like 10 custom fields and associate them to different fields. Like you have to go in every single, whether you're creating it for the first time or selecting an existing custom field, you can only do it one at a time. Could it be? Yeah. Nope, we answered that one already. When should we use hide a field versus removing the field from the screen? That is a great question. So that is why I was going down this endeavor, right? Because my understanding, and again, I have to go look this up, but my understanding was if you want to completely if you want to completely eliminate the field from being visible, you would do it from the field configuration. And that's the only way to make the field completely just disappear, poof. But as you can see here, it's still showing up. So I gotta investigate this a little bit more. But this would be the only use case when you don't want your users to even know that it exists, right? In which case, though, like I'd rather just delete it. I don't know. All right. Can you fill the hidden field with automation? Most likely not. I'm willing to bet some good money that if you have the field hidden, automation won't even see it either. So definitely, probably, most likely not. But Ronnie, if you got anything else? So Ronnie says hidden fields that are still active in the project are a use case for removing it from the screen. No, there you go. One more question. I have not subscribed to Jira Premium trial, but I got a mail to add payment details before your trial ends. What? So as long as you don't put a credit card information, you don't get charged. Atlassian's automatically going to drop you back down to free. So there's nothing you got to worry about. Fun fact: you can now then just restart your next 30-day trial. Okay. So with that said, folks, we're nearing the top of the hour. Any other last-minute questions that you may or may not have? I'd be more than happy to take them right now. Otherwise, we're going to cut this one a little bit short. I know I don't usually do this, but I just wanted to cover field configurations, and I think we got through all the very important use cases. I'm going to do a quick sanity check just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So give me 1 second as I search my description, because I could have sworn I dropped it in the description of this video. So I taught you how to make the field required. I guess it goes without saying, if you wanted to make a field optional, a required one, right? You go back into your field configuration, and then all you got to do is click on the optional button, right? So I'm going to look for my priority. So if it's required, it'll have this required text. So let's just say you want to reverse it. You just click optional, and that'll make it optional. I showed you how to change the text render. I showed you how to apply the field configuration to a project. I showed you how to check it. And then I kind of did a bad job at showing you the hidden, only because I think Atlassian, I don't know if that's supposed to work like that. But anyways, yes, Ron, if you want to jump in on hidden fields and you have a better description, feel free, add yourself here and give us your knowledge. There we go.
Well, Alex, I know this is something you're still learning yourself here. So you're absolutely right. You hide a field via the field configuration when you don't want it associated with the project at all. You don't want people interacting with it. You don't want to update it via automation or anything. You keep it shown in the field configuration, but hidden on screens when you want other things to interact with it, either a specific transition screen or an automation or something else.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I didn't mention it, right? So but we did cover it in the screens conversation. But when you do a transition, you have the ability to pop up fields, and so those are independent of your create, edit, and view. And so you can, if you hide it, then you can't even use it there either.
So that's typically the use case. They're also called hidden fields when you do it off the screen. Read-only fields, sometimes what they're called, especially if you only put them on the view screen. And the idea is to let you edit them either via automation or via some sort of pop-up.
Yeah.
Which then you can limit via condition to only certain groups of people.
This question here from JKK, can we position the fields horizontally next to each other? No. In the screen, you can only do it vertically. In a form, whether it's a business form or actually just only in a JSM form can you get these fields to be horizontal, but that's a JSM only feature. And it's not even in the screen, it's specifically to the form. All right. Samantha says, I have hidden fields that are updated through automation in Jira Cloud. So I would double check that though, Samantha, right? Like hidden has two meanings as we discussed. You can technically hide it from the screen, but unless you really, really go to the field configuration and hide it, and Ronnie, this might be one of those things where we make an independent video on this, because I'd like to test it. Can an automation rule update a truly hidden field?
If it's hidden via the field configuration, I think that automation would fail, but it's absolutely, let's test it out, see what it does.
Juan says, yes, I'm not unpaid, so yes, you will not get charged. If that allows them to name your credit card, like how are they going to charge you? They can't. They're not that magical. You can have the edit field. So Go says you can have field on the edit screen, but remove from the layout so it's editable without being visible. I use that to create indexes in a sense. Yep. So again, that's totally cool. That works. We got a couple thank yous. I think I did find a hidden feature. I use the pop-ups fields to ensure that I captured the required. Yep. That too specific. Yeah. So the question that I was asking about the horizontal JSM forms, not even regular forms, because there's the regular forms in the business template, but that horizontalness is only a JSM forms thing. Slava says, for fields that have default value, if the field is hidden in the field configuration, then it will not receive a value when it's created, regardless. Right. That should be a true statement. That should be a very true statement.
Yep. Okay.
So any last minute questions? We actually got a little closer to the full hour. So Vijay says pop-ups can be used only during the transitions. Yes, that is correct. The screen pop-up will only work during a transition.
But the thing about transition is because you have the conditions and you have the validators, you could limit who has access to that pop-up and make sure the pop-up contains the data it needs to after it's popped up.
Okay, folks. Well, I'm going to try to buy some Disneyland magic keys, and the reservations go up in like 7 minutes. So wish me luck. Hopefully they're still available by the time I log in. If not, then I'm going to be going to the Poor Man's Park, which will be Knott's Berry Farm. All right, Juan, you are somehow very, very paranoid about this. There's no chance. If they have no credit card information of you on record, there's no possible way that they can bill you. It's like if you walk past a Target, there's no way you're going to be charged for the items inside the store. You have to physically give them your credit card. Otherwise, nothing happens.
Yeah, you giving them your payment details is you accepting that payment. Until then, you have not accepted the payment, and they're not going to charge you.
Correct. All right, folks. Again, I'm going to go try to get the magic keys. Thank you very much for coming in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.